All right. Well, welcome everyone. Happy Friday out there. We appreciate you tuning in. This is a special episode of Fireside Fridays. Brought to you by the Delaware Entrepreneurial Center at Ohio Wesleyan University. But today, we are teaming up with one of our partners to be part of a very cool day, first inaugural Ohio Tech Day. So it's brought to you by Ohio X, powered by Facebook. And all across the state today, there's events taking place talking about technology and how we further technology out there. Us as the Entrepreneurial Center at Ohio Wesleyan, and again, our partner at Venture Suite have teamed up to bring you a special talk about technology and the things that they are doing down there, and how it all intertwines and kind of get the history. I'm joined by Brandon Jones and Omar Neesmith. We will chat here in just a little bit. Join us. Feel free to engage. You'll be able to ask questions and everything. Very excited to kick off this special Ohio Tech Day brought to you by Ohio X here from the Delaware Entrepreneurial Center. So let's dig in here in just a second. All right. So, yes, welcome. This is Fireside Friday. We do have chats with amazing people. I've got two of those joining me today. Brandon Jones, Omar Neesmith. Guys, how you doing? Welcome to Fireside Friday here.
Doing great, Steve. It's great. It's Friday. It's winter, fall here in Ohio, so it's wonderful. How
Gotcha.
you doing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's chilly Ohio day. It's
Yeah.
like the weather went from 90 to 55 like they saw a cop, right?
Yeah.
So
I was
it's
prepared sweatpants and t-shirts, and I'm in winter gear, so
yeah. So, well, what I always like to do on this is, so our audience, obviously know you guys well, but our audience may not. So we start out with just a little like origin story, like who you are, just a little 30-second, 60-second overview of who's Brandon, who's Omar. So, Brandon, if you want to take it away.
Yep. Brandon Jones, born and raised Columbus, Ohio. Grew up on the south side of Columbus. Went to city schools, Marion Franklin High School. Actually went to Columbus State, Ohio Dominican, and Ohio State. So I've experienced all three. From there, started on a startup in early 2015. Had my kind of road show of the startup journey, breaking into tech. From there, launched a startup initiative, more of an ESO organization called Black Hack 16. We expanded from Columbus to Cleveland and Cincinnati. Strategic partnerships with Rev One, Cincy Tech, and Centrifuge, as well as Jumpstart. Throughout that, events took over Startup Week, Columbus, 2 years of organizing and planning. And that's how we eventually ventured into a working space, Venture Suite. We consider it the suite of ventures, being able to build out different verticals that's an overall ecosystem kind of stuff.
Gotcha. Yeah. Yeah, no, you guys have just embarked on the new journey with Venture Suite and kind of combining a lot of the different things, right? So Black Hacks, part of it. You got color coded labs in there. So and then the Venture Combine, and I mean, I guess a little bit of color, if you will, on Black Hack. What kind of prompted that, and then what it actually does and helps facilitate in the ecosystem.
Yeah, so I mean, when you break down the ecosystem, ESOs are the boots on the ground. That is like the entry point. Like most people want to get information, they want to get connected, and events, are like the entry level point for an ecosystem. So in 2015, a startup idea, and we were introduced to the ecosystem by going to events. Our partner Ryan Frederick, grind events before you guys were in cups. It was just startup grind, startup weekend, Columbus startup week. And so we frequented those events. And then each time we saw it, there wasn't as much diversity. There weren't that many black and brown people in the room. It was just my brother and I. We have event backgrounds. We started out in college and even high school doing teen parties. So building community, getting people to hang out, that was easy for us. Being able to promote and get people in the room was always easy. That was always a knack. We saw the business in it. We saw how important it was to build those relationships. All the way up till now, people still know us from some of those events we did in high school and even college. So those things stay with you. And when we started to go to all these startup events, we started building relationships with all the organizers. And we saw how those relationships kind of play a domino effect into your journey. So for us, we were like, okay, well, we need to get more black and brown into the room. But instead of just inviting them to those spaces, we wanted to create a safe space for us to be able to ask questions, learn how to do things, and then also get connected with like-minded folks who now want to build more ventures or small businesses or get hired for whatever their skill. So that's why we then decided we needed to just create our own event. And we called it Black Hack, and we just doing Black Hack events. Black Hack events every month, once a month, pizza and drinks, a DJ. Early on, we had a signature where we would always have insomnia cookies at the end of the event. So that became like, I don't know if people were coming just for the cookies or they were coming for the information, but either way, it worked out. And
Right.
So we leveraged both. And, Black Hack still is kind of like the nucleus of just getting people together and then pointing them in the right direction. No, nothing more than that. We started to morph into more than that, which is why we had to outgrow that model and build other things.
Yeah. Yeah, no, you build a community around it. So, and I know we've had these conversations and everything, but there's people, might not understand the difference, the barriers between, accessibility to technology, to the startup world, and the different layers between socioeconomics, racial economics, gender economics. Explain why in your eyes, that is a need to have a special entity to help immerse a culture into technology.
Yeah, the main thing it comes down to is representation, and when we were growing up, even in elementary and high school, talked about it all the time, we did not see knowledge and come to schools to speak. They weren't walking around in our neighborhoods, professionals we didn't see those things. So sports and entertainment were the biggest moguls and icons and people you wanted to kind of look up to. Now it's kind of flipped where you're starting to see that young success come out, so for us, representation matters. And we wanted to, find and locate those people. Like, we know they exist, but where? Can we create a space where now we're able to network and build relationships with? Are they able to pass down some cheat sheet things for us to avoid versus, spending a bunch of time trying to navigate things that, someone can just tell you, go left and don't go right. Like, that's as simple as that. That can maybe 3 years in navigating an idea that sucks. So for us, really representation, and then that vulnerability. Every demographic has its own fears, its own reasons for staying in a shell. And then for us, when you're amongst people that look like you, that walk like you, that talk like you're able to kind of put down that guard a little bit and ask a question that you may think is dumb versus feeling like you have to put on a front and act like you already know these things when you're going in other spaces. And that goes for all demographics, I think there's a security when you're in a space that you're familiar or comfortable with. And then things get a little easier that way. So for us, we always knew that was important. We learned how to navigate in all spaces, but not everybody learns and is able to pick up on how to move like that.
Yeah, no, no. I mean, you're absolutely right. I mean, having a seat at the table, right? I mean, so when
Yep.
everybody participates, the world, functions better. If you don't have that representation on your board in your company, you're ultimately, I mean, most companies sell to everybody in the world, right? And so if you don't have a
Exactly.
voice represented in your decision making room in the marketing messages that go out, you're at a disadvantage to the marketplace. So,
Yep.
but at the same time, to your point, I mean, not all the education is the same out there. Whether it's the different city school systems or whatever, the role models, and so bringing that to the limelight is what's necessary and important, right? And it goes beyond
Hmm.
white, black, colored, whatever that is out there. I mean, we're talking humanity, right? So and
Exactly.
bringing
Yep.
um everybody, so there can be other groups out there that reach different uh you know I guess communities or whatever that you want that are going to share the same messaging, right? That are
Hmm.
going to bring people in, help educate. Now you're going beyond that and really kind of touching on the full spectrum. And I see Omar here. I know he was having some audio troubles. Let's see if we can bring him on here. Hey, Omar, can you hear us?
Hey, gentlemen. Yeah, I can hear you. Can
All
you hear me?
right. All right.
All right.
Welcome.
Yep.
So yeah, Omar,
Thank you.
having a good chat here, but let's go ahead and get just a little bit of your background, that origin story, if you will, and then we'll kind of dive in a little bit more deeper here on Venture Suite.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. So my name, Omar Neesmith. I'm managing director of Venture Combine, which is our accelerator incubator. Hey, I hail from Jacksonville, Florida. So I'm a Southern boy, true and true. I lived up here in the Midwest for the last 16 years. My background, I got into technology. I actually, my undergraduate degree, I'm also to Florida A&M alum, so HBCU. Um, Went in on the creative side in design, and then graduated, went into television for a little bit. And what ended up happening to me was essentially I wasn't the role didn't kind of match what I thought it would be in regards to a level of creativity. I didn't have as much creative authority as I thought I would in that type of role. One thing that I noticed was like nobody told the IT people what to do, so I thought it was a good look to go and look at more of the technical aspect. So I kind of transitioned into support and then went into other aspects of IT. I always knew that I wanted to be in business for myself someday, but it was just, what was that path going to be for me to get there? And, spending years in corporate America, it was just finally about getting with the right team, and like we're talking about in regards to ecosystem and networking. So, here I am today, helping others, well, in the field of entrepreneurs in the past. Started out in multi-level marketing, then I went into actual a technology field with some consulting work and whatnot. So yeah, I've done a lot.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and I kind of walk us through, so Bruce and Brandon, out there building Black Hack. You built, your own systems, your own technology background. How did the package for Venture Suite come together, and why, combining all that, into one thing makes sense?
Well, I mean, for me, so Bruce and Brandon, I had been at a couple of their events previously, and I was just, intrigued on how the gentlemen were bringing the message to the community in regards to technology and the importance of technology, and that communities of color should be engaged. We hear all the time the statistics on the jobs and whatnot, but that's not necessarily attainable. It doesn't seem reachable for everyone. So the fact that just drawing that interest was a big thing. And then I also too, we kind of reconnected through a mutual friend and partner now, Kevin Lloyd. Um, and I was kind of doing my own thing in the sense. So what happened was, I was already trying to put together a program, right, to help entrepreneurs. Went back to school, got an MBA, so I learned all of the things that I wish I had learned in the beginning. I made a lot of mistakes, lost some money, and I wanted to prepare myself through education. So when I got back out there, I know what I know what I know. For entrepreneurs, it's tough. You gotta, you want to build a team, you gotta trust people, but there's the old saying, you gotta check the checker, right? So it was one of those scenarios, and so Bruce and Brandon and I got reconnected through Kevin, and I saw what they were doing, man, and it was just like, why reinvent the wheel? Because one of the biggest challenges that I had was just building a team. How do you build a
Mm-hmm.
team? And so for me, it was like, hey, they had already built the team. They were building a team. I always teased them like, y'all already had a team because y'all was double trouble. So they were born into a team. So
Yep.
it was like, hey, let's just join.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's one of the things that a lot of the whether the companies, the organizations, right? We all have our own strengths, weaknesses, and the pros and cons of our characteristics, right? And so to
Mm-hmm.
put all those together, I mean, it truly does. The old saying, "It takes a village," right? But whether you're building a company, whether you're building an organization, or what you guys have built with kind of a company and organizations collectively, it does take that mix of minds and those multiple people getting in and plugging in and doing it. So and my classes in the entrepreneurship courses, we say ideas don't build companies, people do, right? And it
Mm-hmm.
truly does take the people plugging in. And you guys have assembled a collection of amazing people that have been longtime ecosystem contributors in Columbus, between Startup Week and K Lloyd running columbusblack.com, and being out there and putting that all together in one hub, not only as an entity but with a physical brick and mortar place, right? And I mean,
Yep.
it's tough now with the COVID world, but I mean, we're going to have some student visits down there to Venture Suite. But I mean, you guys really have assembled, classroom area, meeting rooms, co-working space, really that dynamic hub in the heart of Columbus, right? And so our partnership that we at the Entrepreneurial Center, have done with Venture Suite is we recognize, we're up in Delaware, Ohio, right? So we've only got so much diversity that we can, have in a physical location, right? So Ohio Wesleyan's an international school. We've got international programs. We have a diversity, equity, inclusion department. But there's only so far that we can go, right? And so and
Mm-hmm.
reaching out to the actual community, as opposed to just having conversations locally, is what it's all about. And then tapping into both, right? You guys have some amazing resources down there with your programming and everything that our community and audience can take advantage of, and then vice versa, with the cyber sitter world of the grants and the military contracts and the other stuff out there, and making that accessible. The military has a goal to bring that into community, but um, I don't know whether either one of you want to elaborate on the partnership and what you see the advantage is, and how that can help play into the role of what Venture Suite is doing.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, one of the challenges just as entrepreneurs as a whole, right? You can spend all of your time. I mean, you can suck up all of your time just looking for resources. looking for resources, looking for information. One of the things that, the relationship brings is it brings a sense of academic rigor to the table. You actually, I mean, how many companies, only the largest organizations really have a research and development side of that. And research and development is key for sustainability in any business. So the fact that now we're able to, with the partnership with Owu and the deck, we can bring that capability into the startup scene, into the community, to which you have limited access to that unless you're actually a student. So I mean that is huge. The other part with the grant pieces of that, everyone is wanting to raise capital, but at what cost? Unfortunately, a lot of startups, they don't find out until too late, where they sold more of their company than they possibly should have in that moment. So it's about understanding capital and when to take on capital at the right time in the process, and having an alternative means. So to be able um, to work together to expose and provide a platform where folks can get funding to put forth their whether it's a prototype or they're doing some test marketing, and not to have dilutive funds too early in the game. I mean, that's just critical to success overall.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah,
I mean, go ahead, Brandon.
yeah, I was just going to add to that. I mean, the main thing for us in Venture Suite and even coming together with Omar, some of our other partners is the partnership, is the collaboration. Working in silo as a single founder, like Omar mentioned earlier, I was born with a co-founder, so I've had no choice but to learn how. I mean, it's been to my benefit that I was born with a co-founder. We mesh well. We think alike. What I do great, he may do better, and what he does better, then we bounce off each other and we complement each other. But that's the same thing for building teams, right? And in an ecosystem functions just like that. It's just even bigger teams, part collaborations, and you're doing those things the beginning and has been doing those things on his own. So it's like, why duplicate this and we can bring it all together? More and part of our mindset here, our mantra on the walls at Venture Suite is everybody eats, which literally people eat here. Also the opportunity, always a big enough opportunity for us to share the opportunity. And then if we can bring more people who have more opportunities outside of us, then we all get to share in those opportunities. And collaboration really drills down to. And so we needed, not only did we want Omar, we needed Omar. We need more Omars. We need 4 or 5 more Omars. So if there's someone here who feels like they could bring something to our ecosystem and our ventures, and join the team. I mean, we have a way to fit you in. We have a way to collaborate with you. We have a way to partner with you. If there are partners out there that are watching, shout out to Chris and Ohio X, Steve, and what you guys are doing. Woo. These are important. These partnerships are important. It's about leverage, and you guys allowing us to access your network and what you guys have built and continue to build. It just makes our network even stronger.
Yeah, as Kay Lloyd put here, teamwork makes the dream work, right? So I mean, it truly does
Exactly.
take those partnerships, and while we all, are have our own independent communities and audiences and followers and likes and whatnot, right? When we put that power together, and truly become, one hub, one ecosystem, that's where it gets really exciting, right? Because then you've got all those different places that you can reach, all those resources, the things, stuff that we might not know about, that become accessible. I mean, it's like every time you add a person to your own personal network, your list grows exponentially, right? Your reach just exponentially grew because now technically you've got somewhat access to, that person's connections that you never knew of. So, and that's where it gets kind of, again, really exciting to see the possibilities and the opportunities. So, and the stuff that we've got at the Entrepreneur Center is one thing, the goals and perspectives, but bringing in the opportunity for our community to engage down with the programming that you guys have built within the ecosystem that you guys have been part of, for years with the startup week and everything else. I mean, that's where it gets really exciting for us, like the students, to get exposure to that. Because you brought up something earlier that people selling out too early, right? Or not knowing the right step to make, and then basically being at a disadvantage, right? So we're only as good as the information we have, and we only know what we know. And so the more access we can get, and those landmines to avoid are the, like, hey, don't take that capital. That's that's going to head you down this road, and you're not going to reach your full potential, right? Or they're taking advantage of you on this. Having all that kind of wealth of knowledge is obviously beneficial to not only founders but the group as a whole. But I guess as you guys see this evolving and the new facility taking place, what kind of have you seen already? Because I mean, I know it's only early on with it, but and then where do you see this being in 2-3 years and the impact?
Yeah, I mean, what we've seen already is partnerships, new collaboration. I mean, we have members that are in here that are leveraging the space for events. They're leveraging the space for meetings. They're bringing that we've always wanted, and we get to meet them. We're in here doing business, and then we allow our members access to relationships that they would not meet elsewhere, unless you're just running and bumping into these people. So the amount of synergy that's in this place, and the energy that's coming from everyone wanting to get down and do work, is amazing, and it's breeding new opportunities for not only innovation but even business. I mean, people are able to connect the dots and instantly scale, or they're able to come together on, you got two people working on the same business and at the same level. Is there a merge that can happen? That typically does not happen. Not in our community. We don't see enough mergers. We don't see enough acquisitions. We don't see enough scale. So for us, we're trying to bring all those things under one roof and start to create those type of opportunities, not only for small businesses, but there's startup opportunity for people. I mean, you're thinking about the same idea I'm thinking about when we haven't even put a pitch deck together. Maybe there's a way for us to build that solid team, and we can go after this together. Like Omar mentioned earlier, in terms of raising capital, we don't have in our community strong pre-seed angels to the point where we can tap on a door and get $20,000. So then now leveraging resources to see if we even need capital right now. Is there other opportunities out there that we can go and scale? I mean, there's a lot of grant opportunities. There's a lot of university dollars. So for us, it's collaborating around all of those different resources to see, what can we actually help people with. Other great thing that we're doing here is what our other program, Color Coded Labs, our 18-week full stack boot, is getting people jobs. But it's not just getting them jobs that we can check a box. It's sustainable careers. It's getting them incomes and actually make a living. They can see themselves. Maybe they can invest. They can be a part of a startup that is a unicorn or IPOs, and then now they're able to now become an angel investor because they've been in different situations. So not only are we just trying to connect dots, we're trying to really change lives. And so I think we've already been able to see that. We'll continue to see that. And then for us in the future, of course, is to go and disrupt as many innovation deserts as we can and stand up a venture inside all of the inner city, urban, underserved communities, not only in Columbus, wide. So small goals that we're hitting. We've got a list of partnerships that we're knocking on doors and collaborating. And then eventually we will start going to other neighborhoods and standing up the same ecosystem.
Yeah, no, I think that's what does make it exciting. I mean, and perfect segue to what we're here celebrating today with the first Ohio Tech Day, right? You are truly
Hmm.
bringing the accessibility into tech jobs, tech training, tech understanding, right?
Yeah.
To a community that is, as you mentioned before, underrepresented. And when you go out to these startup engagement events, it's you and Bruce, right, to start. Now I think we're
Hmm.
seeing a little bit more,
Yeah.
through obviously your efforts and everything else. But and then it's an exciting time to be in Columbus right now, and Ohio in general, just from the economic development that's going on, the companies that are growing to those unicorn statuses, right? And then we're going to see those original founders or those first 30, 50 or whatever employees become those angel investors, be giving back to the community, going and starting those next unicorns, right? And so that spin out, we get that coattail effect where we just continue to spiral into something that's great. And then having the resources and the tools of guiding people through that, they're like, man, I really wish I could do that, but I don't know how, right? How do I start? And that's what you guys have kind of assembled there, so that, you don't have to have all the answers. I haven't met an entrepreneur yet that has all the answers and knows everything, right? I mean, they still hit the pitfalls. So if we can, cut that learning curve, but then have that support network, that access to capital, that's where, we truly can make a difference. So, and that's what you guys have assembled down there. And as we look at this next generation, because I mean, that's kind of what this day is about, is the upcoming middle school, high school, and the world that they're going to be living in. I mean, I got 5 kids, and I can tell you, like, the 3-year-old can navigate, the tablets and everything, better than I could a computer back in the day, right? And I'm a pretty tech savvy guy. But the technology world that they are coming up into, that's really where the jobs, will be, right? And so introducing them to it at an early age, understanding, how you get those jobs. What do you guys see as the, looking back at, where you guys came up through high school and everything? How do we reach down and connect to that youthful generation continually?
Well, I think like part of it is, so back in our day, one of the things that I think kind of hurt not only the generation, but also too from a culture perspective is, back in the day it was all about the, pocket protector and, to talk about software and whatnot. It was the whole nerd thing, right? So that kind of limited people's scope. So now what we have to do is, and I think it's already being done, now you hear more and more about, hey, I want to be a startup. Look how much, money folks are raising and whatnot. Now we just got to now tailor it to, now it's not just about raising money. It's about actually, building a business, building something that's sustainable. So we gotta start doing things in, elementary school. I remember back in elementary school, I mean, this dating, Tandy, where you sitting up here typing. I mean, it was really remedial like stuff, right? But that was in the day where everything was new. To your point, these kids know more about technology, and we can start with no code types of solution just to get them, integrated and get them making awareness and learning about software, and then and graduate from a coding perspective. So really, the earlier that we can, introduce technology to the kids, and expand upon what we're already doing when it comes to mobile devices and whatnot. Every child knows that. Now we have to start, solve a problem, with your device. I mean, I can't think of one right off the top of my head, but wouldn't it be lovely to stop an argument with, by using technology, just asking each other's questions or whatnot. But that's what we really need to do. We need to continue to and make technology cool. I think it's already happening, but we just
Yep. I think we lost Omar there for a
I
second.
think we did. Yep.
So, but he's on the right path, and I mean it's true. Like, I mean, you look at the shows growing up, right? I mean, we had, Steve Urkel, it was nerdy to
Yeah.
be, or Saved by the Bell had Screech, right? And there was
Mm-hmm.
all these stereotypes around technology, and anything computer related was nerdy or
Yeah.
a dorky or something. I think now, I mean, as the probably Revenge of the Nerds, I think, was probably the movie that was like, the nerds will eventually take over the world, and you all end up working for the nerds. And now we've got that startup buzz out there. We see the success stories of large companies being built, usually around technology. There's a lot of software as a service out there. Venture capital, seems to like software because they can scale it quickly as opposed to physical products. It's a little easier. But bringing that into everybody is the the key, right? So
Yeah, I mean, the thing about that is, I mean, nerds still rule the world. They're the ones that's powering and making all of the software. A lot of the founders that you see that are successful in all of these unicorns and billion-dollar companies, I mean, they're hustlers with, they're not all developers and coders. They're not the ones that's building the product that, went to go be $1 billion. But their teams are strong, and they're the ones that are the nerds. And I think the nerds now are cooler nowadays than what they were portrayed to be then. And I think that's the thing that, we've been trying to do, but I think more organizations and just the general public is doing is making tech cool and sexy and trendy, and, being able to work at Snapchat and TikTok and Instagram is not a bad thing. And I think more kids are interested in those things. I think I know what Color Labs, we have and a mission to go back into the schools, and right now 18 and over, but the next step is how do we go to the high schools and then eventually go back to the middle school and the elementaries. The same way they recruit for sports as early as childhood is the same way there should be adults finding that raw talent in kids. I mean, there are kids right now that can code. There are kids that already have leader capabilities. I mean, my daughter is my second. No, she's my third mom. My wife is my second mom. My daughter's my third mom. Right. She has leader capabilities. I mean, she's telling me what my schedule is. She's telling me, like, she's completely different from my son, and I see capabilities in him that I don't see in her. So it's just being able to nurture that raw talent that they have and make it more trendy and make it more cool. I mean, my kids can send me emails right now. I wasn't in third grade sending emails to my dad. I mean, that just was not a thing. I wasn't setting up Zoom calls with my friends after school. So these are things that turn into careers and turn into skill sets that we're looking for, in our startups. Hey, can you setting up calls and email and Zooms, like, so it's taking that raw talent in it and actually ushering it same way you do with sports.
Right.
You find it can dribble at 2, and then now all of a sudden you're putting them in camps and programs and all high school. So it's just ushering that raw talent in.
Yeah, no, completely. All right, Omar, welcome back. So, speaking of technology, right? So,
right.
But no, well, and I mean, we're definitely in a hub here in Columbus, between the startup scene, but not only that, but the big players, right? The big players, have set up, whether it's data centers, corporate or regional offices. Columbus is really a technology savvy city. So and only growing, further. I mean, a lot of the jobs that are being added are in technology, and sometimes, I mean, you'll talk to the companies and they'll say there's a technology, shortage as far as the talent shortage, right? So they're pulling in people from the West Coast and the Austins and the Bostons of the world to come here. So, but as the pandemic, has kind of shifted a little bit of stuff, forced all of us into a virtual world, and enabling more technology and everything. What do you guys see the ripple effects, across the tech sector, with kind of everybody learning more technology savvy stuff, regardless of age, over this last year and a half here?
Well, I mean, I think it's a two-factor scenario. So there's one factor where just technology as a whole is starting to make things more distributive. You're dealing with smaller teams. Company doesn't have to grow into this huge monolithic, entity. And what the pandemic has done is, I think, is further push that model out, where now you're going to see smaller teams. You don't have to be in a huge office. So just the whole distributed nature of business as to that, that traditional centralized world. And what that's done is, it's pushing technology further and further down to individuals, with just having certain, basic skill sets. Everybody's Zoom. That caused a huge issue for not only certain demographics, certain generations. And now that's forcing everyone to kind of up their skills in regards to technology. So I think what it is creating, it's forcing us, as opposed to it was kind of a choice before. Now it's kind of a must-have.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, I think it's really become the equalizer. I mean, it's really accelerated what we need. I mean, back in 2015, when we were working on our startup, we were using free conference call to set up conference calls. I don't remember the last time that someone sent me an actual conference call line to call into, because it's all Zoom, right? I mean, everybody turns the camera off and you're still just speaking through it, but it's, it's definitely switched. Just in that, it has switched. The other thing is, even then when we were working on our startup and we were looking for freelancers, it was kind of looked down upon if you were using someone in India or Asia to build your prototype or your product. It's like, oh, you have to have a CTO that's here. Your team needs to all be headquartered here. And now everybody's doing global business. Teams are completely remote. There are people who are building startups and they've never been in person ever. And I've got a team in New York. I got a team in Chicago. There's two of us that's managing all of it. And so before 5 years, you weren't able to do that. And it definitely got looked down when you were to pitch that as your team and this is how you operate. Now everybody has downgraded their business size and scale in terms of brick and mortar, but then they've grown exponentially virtually and remote. So, I think it's actually because, even when we were on our startup and we were focused on media and entertainment, we were trying to do meetings and through a free conference call, and they wanted us to be in person. And then now these deals are being done through email and through DocuSign and through Zoom. If you can master those three things and you can master the management of that, I mean, you can build any business that scales. And that's not even from a startup standpoint. That's an e-commerce standpoint. That's a small business standpoint. And so I like the fact that we are in the position we're in. For those who are introverts, it allowed them to kind of hunker in even more and focus and say no. But it also allowed them to kind of come out of their shell and be comfortable in being in Zooms. And then now when the world opens back up, they can kind of open back up themselves. So I think it kind of slowed everybody down and brought everybody back out. And I think we're all kind of at the right pace. Whereas before we were kind of just chasing things that were maybe impossible. And I know, shout out to Mick, he was just here, Columbus, maybe a couple of weeks ago, in saying nothing's impossible, but things felt impossible years ago, where now anything kind of feels achievable because we're able to kind of meet our own pace. So I'm cool with it.
Yeah, no, well, and I mean, to your point, I mean, there wasn't like an equalizer there, right? I mean, so like, there's now like a threshold or a foundation that has been built through this pandemic, where, I mean, before I know like with sales visits, right? I mean, if you weren't going in person, you could lose the deal. Now it's like they don't
Mhm.
even want to see like, hey, get on a Zoom, right? And it's weird to
Right.
have like you say, like a call without that Zoom or that video, that Microsoft's Teams, whatever, attachment. And so now it's just standard practice, right? It does make things, technology is the great equalizer and the enabler. We truly are in the what we call the connected era, right? So literally, like you mentioned, I mean, companies can be built almost completely virtually, right? With you know not having a physical office presence and having those remote workers from all over plug in, and co-founders that aren't in the same city. It's kind of a crazy way out there, and I think that's going to only enable the gig economy further. And the technology, is obviously there. The architecture is already built, and now we're going to see this next generation grab hold of it even more so than what's already relevant today, right? So, but so just a kind of closing question here before we end it. The Okay, so I'm building a company. I've got my own network and my own people that I'm bringing into it. And it's only the known individuals, right? That's so often how teams get built in the founders. How do we go about reaching out to a different community so that we do expand? Like, I mean, I know we need more voices at the table and everything, but how do we approach if I don't have anybody from a different uh, demographic that I'm in, as a founder? How do people go about connecting into other ecosystems?
Well, I would say first and foremost, you gotta believe that is important. I mean, this is conversation that is happening in academia world. It's conversation happening in the corporate world. I mean, statistically, it shows that when you have diverse teams, because let's face it, we we solve problems differently because it's based on our environment, it's based on our culture. So the more opportunities you have to see different perspectives of how you solve a problem, I mean, the more powerful you become as a team. So first and foremost, you just have to have the will. Secondly, I mean, there's a lot of different organizations, especially especially here in Columbus, we got a robust, tech culture here. I mean, Bruce and Brandon, I mean, they built out Black Hack. I mean, and they're well connected. I mean, if you don't know, go ask Bruce and Brandon or Kerry Lloyd, and you'll get put on. So I mean, there's just a huge opportunity. So if you don't know anybody, what I would say is go to the various Rev One has events as well. I mean, there's ton of events. So just start off there. Just start going to different tech events and introduce yourself, and you'll get connected.
Yeah, that networking is a power is powerful. Relationships are everything, but I mean, you got to be able to share to some degree. Even if you see on a wall, I mean, social media is available to you. LinkedIn is great. You can stay behind the screen. You can study people's profiles and resumes, and kind of see how things match up. I mean, I always say the first thing is research. Research who you're talking to, research why you want to talk to them, understand why, or if you're even in the spot where you need to talk to them yet. That's the first thing. I mean, there's a lot of people who want to have conversations. You're not ready for that conversation. You don't even need to be having that conversation. There's nothing you can get out the conversation other than just having a conversation. Um, you look at your phone book, like how many people are you actually talking to on a regular basis based on the contacts in your phone book? Not even enough for both hands. And then so it's like, do you just always need to be connected to new people every day? To some degree, maybe, but most of the time not. So I think sometimes it's just sitting back and refining yourself and your product or whatever it is you want to have a conversation about. Then that's when you put the work in and you try to get connected. I mean, making those connections, especially in the digital, You hit a button and ask somebody to accept your friend request, and maybe they will, they won't. Then you go around them. You know what I mean? All right, I can't get a hold of Steve, but Steve's always at Oh Woo. So let me see who else is at Oh Woo who knows Steve. Now I have a meeting with them, and then they're going to say, hey, you should meet Steve. Okay, now I got the meeting. So people are touchable. But to Omar's point, you got to have some will and put that work in. And then remove the fear. I think for all of the demographics that are separate, there are a lot of people who are like, oh, I'm black. Should I be talking to Steve? I don't know how to approach Steve. He's white. And vice versa. But at the end of the day, I mean, Steve is a human and he's a person and he hurts and he's tired. He yawns. Like all those things are normal. And then once you remove those barriers, like it's just a regular conversation. So when I walk in the rooms, I think of people as humans. Like, yeah, you have all of these different accolades. You are who you are. But at the end of the day, your wife partner tells you what to do, just like my wife and partner tells me what to do. My kids control my schedule just like yours, right? My Zoom buffers and kicks me out of meetings just like yours. So, I mean, once you think of those things, it's like, let's just have a regular conversation and see where this goes. So, I mean, I always tell people to just keep it in a human format. And I think you should be good. You'll be guided based on energy.
Yeah, no, completely. Well, and Omar, I mean, you touched on it. I know friend Don Dickinson has said it out there too. It's not about color, gender, sexuality, anything. It's perspective, right? And bringing in those diverse perspectives is only going to make your business, your organization, your marketing efforts, your sales, your morale better, right? So, oh, you're on mute, Omar.
It's that old saying, if you're the CEO and you're the smartest person in the room, it's a
It's a
problem.
problem. Yeah, for sure. So, well, everyone out there, so you can connect more with Omar, Brandon, Kay Lloyd, Lisa White, the fabulous people down at Venture Suite. So you can go to their website, check them out. You can engage with us at the center because through the partnership, we're working with them, hopefully doing some dynamic things here in the near future. So excited to see where the partnership goes, but then also just the ecosystem in general, right? So the Columbus, Central Ohio ecosystem, so is such an exciting place and cool thing to be in right now. So, and things like Ohio Tech Day, we appreciate them allowing us to be part of that. Hopefully there's some information gained out there, and feel free to plug in. As Brandon said, almost all of the people out there are accessible in one way or another. So I think that's one of the cool thing about Midwest culture in general is that we do have that pay it forward, if you will, and that want to help perspective. So until next time, we'll be back on Fireside Friday. But appreciate you guys joining us today, Brandon, Omar. So have a wonderful rest of the Friday and a great weekend. And we will see you all next time on Fireside Friday. Take care,
Alrighty,
everybody.
thank you. Take care.